Welcome to Hope Springs Eternal. I'm Pastor Jay Jackson with Paul Roberts, our Director of Music and Fine Arts here at Longview First United Methodist Church. And it's good to be back with you all. I missed last week as I was away on vacation, so we decided to fire everybody else. Ricky and Kaiti, they are off of this segment, although Kaiti does manage to get into segment number 2 of our 2-part podcast today. But Paul,
Yes.
we have streamlined our conversation so that you and I can deal with Blessed Assurance, one of the great hymns of the faith. Tell us your thoughts on Blessed Assurance.
Well, again, it's one of those hymns where you can't imagine singing these words to any other melody. They just fit perfectly. And it was a collaboration between two great women, Fanny Crosby and Phoebe Knapp in 1873, that brought this song about. And we all know this song, and it's just one of those songs that you really, when you sing it, you feel the joy of living and the joy of praising God.
Fanny Crosby really does epitomize this end of the 19th century hymnody. And so many of her hymns have kind of slipped back in their usage and popularity, but Blessed Assurance is still one of those great hymns that are used.
To put it in perspective, I've got here, she wrote between 5,500 to 9,000 hymns.
Oh my goodness.
Many times under pseudonyms, different pseudonyms there.
In that time, it was better to have a male name if you wanted to be used.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's absolutely true. And of course, many of them are not in our current hymnals. They've been taken out over the years. But we've got several in our latest hymnal. And it's just amazing. She was just a very prolific hymnist, you know, and we're lucky to have her. I mean, you probably recognise some other hymns by her. To God Be the Glory is another great
I
one.
love that hymn.
Yeah,
I love that hymn as well.
I am thine, O Lord, is equally.
And they both of those, along with Blessed Assurance, has that sort of upbeat, up-tempo, driving kind of hymnody that was really about a revivalistic period in Christendom.
Yes, it was, and that's how this hymn really was first published in 1873. It was in a songbook called Palmer's Pure Gold by Ira Sankey, I should say. And when this was put in the hymnal, he went on these massive revival meetings in Great Britain and the US, and that's really how it became so well known. It was just shared with these huge meetings that they had.
I can remember as a child having hymn sings at the revivals that we would have at the church that I grew up in. And Blessed Assurance was always one of those hymns that was picked out to be sung. When you have a hymn sing, you would have Blessed Assurance. And even as I was raising my children, where we would have those occasional, less often, but more occasional hymn sings, my daughter Carrie would say, 369. And I said, Carrie, why do you always call 3? Well, that's your favorite hymn, Dad. And I said, no, it's really not my favorite hymn. I love Blessed Assurance, but it's not my favorite hymn. But she just had it in her mind that Blessed Assurance was my favorite hymn. She must have heard me say something positive about it. And so she was calling it all the time and claiming that it was her dad's favorite hymn. And I really do love Blessed Assurance, but I've never claimed it as my favorite. But it made our top 5 here at First United Methodist Church. And what a wonderful hymn to, bring a crescendoing conclusion to our 5-week series on our great hymns of the faith, because the Blessed Assurance of God is one of those things that is aspired to among the faithful, to come to a place of full assurance of the salvific work of God in Jesus Christ is at the core of who we are as Protestant Christians, and to sing of the blessed assurance that we can have, the changed way in which we live in an assurance of what is yet to come out of what has already been done by God, is such an important aspect of our understanding of the faith. And this hymn captures that.
It does. Even from the beginning, if you take the first line, blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Everybody knows that line, as they do the chorus, the refrain. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. I mean, people just know that.
And when you think about Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Christian movement, in a great awakening that took place in Europe and then transferred over to the new land across the Atlantic in America, that Wesley's experience of assurance came through his lack of assurance that he was witnessing such assurance that he desired in the Moravians, that he was making a trek across the Atlantic. And what happened was they were in a very turbulent storm, and people were screaming and crying and falling on their knees, praying for relief and for their eternal salvation, as the Moravians over in the corner sang joyously songs of assurance of God. And Wesley desired that so much that he really went on a journey to find assurance in his own life as he saw witnessed in the Moravians. And as that part of our history intersects with this beautiful, powerful hymn of the faith, we find that sense of Wesley's discovery of assurance in the Moravians as a part of our desired journey towards feeling that assurance in our faith in the salvation of God in Jesus Christ. I mean, that's at the heart of who we are as Protestant Christians.
It's a powerful hymn, and it's probably in everybody's top 10 hymns, really, of the thing there. I just got to say that it's unusual, this hymn, because it was a collaboration between two women, but in this case, the music came first. That's unusual in hymn writing. Usually the words are written, and then they find a hymn, an older hymn that's already existing, or they write a new tune for it. So in this case, we get the music first, and then Phoebe was talking, having a visit from Fanny, and she played her this melody. She said, "What words come to your mind when I play this tune?" And that's, blessed assurance, Jesus mine. The rest came later, but her first line was during that afternoon when the two ladies met. And as I said, it's a different way round. The music first, then the words are added. Yeah. And I like to think that Fanny Crosby was just so moved by that beautiful melody that the words just flowed out.
It just flowed from her. As much as we talk about these first two words, blessed assurance, and the concept of assurance, in verses 2 and 3, the first words are perfect submission. And I've got to say this, in many aspects of our culture and of our faith, submission is not an easy concept for us independent-minded, strong-willed human beings. As much as we want to give our lives over to God, the aspect of submission is such a dirty word in our culture. We have this idea of the subjective aspects of males over females. We have it over the rich over poor. We have of the powerful over the weak. But to actually find strength and excitement in giving up what we so often long so deeply for, to give it to God in such a way that we say, we trust in you and we are assured of what you are doing, even when we're clueless about what we are doing. It's really a song of trust and faith that I find to be really engaging. If only we could live into the perfect submission that we sing about so much in Blessed Assurance. And to find it in such a way that we turn from our doubts to praise, we turn from our fears to praise, to turn from our questioning into this certainty of what God is about and how God has demonstrated that faithfully, and how we not only see that in what has transpired before us and what is happening in our life, but in a certainty of a belief of what it lies ahead for us, Paul.
It's a part. The whole hymn is a powerful statement about our belief and love of God, and this hymn is always sung at the beginning of a service or at the end of the service. It's never a middle hymn. It's not a transitional hymn. It is either a punctuation on the front end or the back. It is.
I love the hymn, and I love that it's the conclusion of our series as we find in our hymnody this incredible journey at the end, I think we all desire for that sense of trust and faith, that sense of assurance that frees us from so much that we create as obstacles between who we are and who God made us to be, and who we desire to be before God, and to not be so worried, but to be free to experience the joy of God in Jesus Christ. I really look forward to it Sunday, and to sharing that in the form of sermon. I'm a natural worrier. It's a part of my DNA. It's a part of how I've been wired from the earliest times. So for me to just be able to say, blessed assurance, Jesus is mine, it moves me from that to a place that I think is more desirable from God's perspective, and certainly for my life, more desirable for me. Paul, how often would you say that we use blessed assurance?
A lot. I'd say in morning services, I have a rule of trying not to repeat a hymn within 3 months. That doesn't always work like that, because when a scripture reading comes up where this one just, comes up, you've got to. So probably 4 or 5 times a year.
And if you give people a chance to pick hymns, they're going to pick Blessed Assurance.
And I have to say quickly, just put this in there, Christy Treese, who is a long-serving member of the Chancel Choir, I know this is her favourite hymn. So, Christy, if you're out there, you're going to be very happy this Sunday.
I'll be listening for Christy's voice to make sure that she's singing loud and clear as we sing Blessed Assurance. Yes. The next segment is going to be with our contemporary team. They're going to be talking about Dive, and it's going to be a great punctuation to this series. And I thank you for joining us for this 5-week journey through our Songs of Summer hymn series. And we look forward to what lies ahead as hope continues to spring eternal. See you again.
Bye-bye.
So, welcome back to the second half of our podcast this week, where we're going to, they invited the oldest guy in the room to come and talk about a Stephen Curtis Chapman song, Dive, which is actually one of my favorites. I think that's an incredible song. And so I'm Ricky, and this is
Keven
and
Kaiti.
And here we go. Keven, take it away.
Yes, Dive. When we were first talking about the series and songs we wanted to do, Kaiti, you mentioned that it was part of your youth group's traditions, right? Well, they sung it at the end of everything.
Yeah, we played this video at the end of every youth group. We would play the video to Dive. It was kind of like our theme song of our youth group. So for me, it was one that was very formative, and also that I was like, we have to play this song.
Yeah, when we first started talking about it, I think this was one that both of us were like, it has to be. Because while I'm much younger, and so...
Oh my God.
Especially than me.
The first service that I was leading worship for, this became one that we really liked to do. And so even if we didn't do it during worship, they'd be like, Keven, y'all play Dive. And so it'd be 20 minutes after the service, and we'd turn everything back on and we'd run through this song just because it's super fun, while also being very deep. Name applicable.
Pun intended.
Right. So, yeah, Kaiti, why this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one for me, it really kind of encapsulated everything that like I said, was very formative during that time of my life. Stephen Curtis Chapman had to make the list, and probably will make it again in the services during this series. But, the video, Ricky just remembered this right before this podcast started, but is of this minivan of friends, picking up other friends as they're driving, I don't know, on this mountain. I guess they're all on a mountain or something like that. But it was very evangelism centered, where you're sharing the love of God. You want other people involved. You want to get them involved. And the lyrics, where what I remember of that was that you're diving in. you're going deep in over your head. And it was about being all in. And that was the point in my life that was true, that this song was very much my testimony, not because of the song. It just kind of coincided with when I went all in for Jesus. And so that, that's what you wanted to be happening. And that's what you want. And it does actually theologically tie with so many scriptures where Jesus and the apostles and the psalmist and so many people throughout our biblical canon tell us to give your all to Jesus and to go deep and to not just stay kind of lukewarm or stay on the surface, but to really give yourself away to God, and how much better of a life that is. And this song is so upbeat. It's so fun. It brings back those memories, but it also it kind of conveys that you can't do this discipleship thing half-heartedly, that you have to dive all the way in. And that's one of the things that I love about this song, that it says that you want to get caught up in this living, the awesomeness of the joy of living for God. And I think sometimes when we think of giving ourselves away, of going all the way in, of putting our whole chips in, it can feel like a burden. It can feel like something that we have reticence to do. But this song helps us to remember that there's such joy and fun and adventure in doing that, and then pulling other people along. And so for me, that was why this song, that you want it. You want to do it. And you might be a little trepidatious at first, but you're going to dive in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember my cousin actually got the CD when it came out. And so that was the first time that I heard it. I was probably like, I don't know, I was young. I was like 8 or 9 when I heard that song for the first time. And it was one of those that it's such an earworm that like you just start singing it to yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, when I was 8 or 9 or 10, I wasn't fully grasping what all it was saying. But then the more that you heard it, and the more that, I went through life, like it's basically, I have decided to follow Jesus.
Right.
Just up tempo, different melody, different words, but it's the same sentiment, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited.
I'm glad y'all are doing that. So, for me, it's really, I'm sitting here thinking about that song, and at this point in my life, it's really, it's all those things, but it's also about losing yourself. I guess that's the part that I would emphasize in really diving into the grace of God and letting that just be the place where you live. I've tried and failed to bet the farm on Christ and to give my all to Him. And truthfully, you hear this a jillion times, but the older I've gotten in life and in faith, and the less I know, the less I understand. But to trust and to live in that grace just becomes more and more a part of where I think joy lies and where true life Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think that there's something about kind of being reminded. I read something recently, a little devotional by an author that kind of talked about how, we have idols, that it's easy to point out idols that look nothing like God, but what we've done is we've fashioned idols that are just false images of God, and that we have this way of saying it's great that our faith can be accommodated into our lives, that our faith doesn't ask too much of us. And this devotional just kind of said, an idol's an idol, even if it's a false image of God or, a false God. And I just thought how true that was, that we a lot of times are thankful for a faith that doesn't ask too much of us, and yet our faith asks everything of us. And again, we say that sometimes thinking, oh no, what do I have to give up? But then what we find is joy, and what we find is grace, and what we find is life. And I think of some of the Psalms. We talked about different songs that might go along with this. And one of the kind of oldies but goodies that was mentioned was Better is One Day.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know if everybody would remember, but it's a psalm where it just says, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 days elsewhere. And I would rather be a gatekeeper and the doorpost of your temple than to be in anywhere else, in this life of luxury. And I think that a lot of times I don't scream that. That's not the prayer, the song that I sing. And so, I need to be reminded. I need to have these songs that we're going to sing on Sunday that say, I have decided to follow Jesus, and I'm not going to turn back. I'm not going to turn back. And that at times that is a hard decision.
Mm-hmm.
That at times there is sacrifice and there is dedication. It's like a marriage vow. There are times that you love through sickness and in health, and through good times and in bad. But most of the time it's love.
Yeah.
It's joy, and it's laughter, and it's good. And it's good that that God doesn't put a heavy yoke on us, but gives us an easy and a beautiful life. And not easy in the sense that it will be easy, but easy in the sense that He's with us, and that that it's full of all the things that we've mentioned. So I just think that sometimes we don't want our church to tell us that more is expected of us, but sometimes it's needed to be said.
Sure. I love it that both of y'all's youth groups or worship places, it was a thing you just had to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that's cool, because I'm sitting here thinking, that's one of those songs, maybe if you turned it on every morning and said, hey, this is how I'm going to live my life today. I'm really going to let this lose what I need to lose and dive deep into this. What a cool way to live every single day of our lives.
Yeah. When I was early in my worship leading experience, I went to a conference that Stephen Curtis Chapman spoke at, and he's gone through some real tragedy. It's a very sad story, but he also talked about the background of the song very briefly, and it was, I might be misremembering, but I believe it was a sermon that he heard, that the metaphor was, if you go like chest deep when you're fishing, you're going to catch a lot more than people that are just standing on the banks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was an interesting visual, and then he just put it into song and said all of those words essentially. So yeah.
And I think, yesterday I took the girls swimming, and last night Lily came and got in my bed. It was later than I wanted it to be. And, but she wanted to cuddle. And so I said, okay. And we were just talking, and I said, hey, what was the best part of your day? And she said, well, I did something really scary at the pool, but it ended up being cool. And I said, oh, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I was trying to do a headstand. And she's really just learned how to swim pretty well. And she said, so I put my hands on the bottom of the pool, and I almost flipped. I almost did a flip. She said, and it made my stomach get really tight. And, it was a 6-year-old describing, adrenaline and fear, but she said it was the best part of my day. And I thought, that's really cool. At the best part, and I said, I'm so proud of you, that you tried. And she was like, well, it was kind of an accident. And I was like, that's okay. Sometimes, sometimes the best parts of life are accidents. But now you know that you can do this scary thing. And sometimes it feels so scary. And yet it turns out to be the best parts of our days or our lives. And I think that this song really captures that you have to actually go all in for Jesus to really experience what it is that all of these people in the Bible, that the psalmist that wrote, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 day elsewhere, that you can't play on the sideline and understand what that person must have meant. That the people that are scared of heaven, that they think they'll get bored in heaven or whatever the case is, that maybe they haven't experienced going all in yet, or whatever the case might be. And we all do that, where we just think, maybe there's something else that's better. We have fear of missing out or something. And usually when I'm feeling that way, it's because I've pulled back in some way. I've held back something of myself for fear. But again, it's like, I just need sometimes a song or Steve Curtis Chapman. Keep saying his name wrong, but the tongue twister. Or my 6-year-old daughter to remind me that, it can be scary, but it can turn into the best parts of our day.
Yeah.
And so, and that there's a reason that Jesus says, if you want to find your life, if you want to save your life, lose it. Lose it. And I think that Stephen Curtis Chapman said it with that one word, dive. Dive in.
So you guys are going to do this Sunday.
Yep.
And I'm guessing you'll probably not have a minivan for people to get on.
Well, I tried to approve it through the finance committee.
But, so
We're making the purchase request.
You're making a purchase request.
We'll see.
Please don't sign my name to that.
Already did.
Oh, oops, okay.
If we get enough likes on the podcast.
Okay. If you get enough likes on this podcast, never mind.
A yellow Volkswagen minivan.
I like it.
Minivan. So what do you want people to get on? And what do you want people, when they leave Sunday morning, to take with them?
Dive in.
The last line of the chorus is, the river's deep, the river's wide, the river's water is alive. So dive in. I just think that's all it is.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yep. That's it.
Goodbye.